So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, participants. Thanks for joining this chapter 23. And we are going to have a great insight today on the topic strength-based practices and TRIZ. And today's speaker is Gauri. And the format, for TRIZ Talks is always like we want to get the people who are expert in TRIZ and they just share their views and their experiences with TRIZ. And after some time, once their presentation is over, you can always have a question. And if she permits, you can have your questions meanwhile as well. So it is basically an informal forum wherein we can get insights into how TRIZ is being useful for an expert. So without taking much ado, and I'll just request Gauri to start with her presentation and give a brief introduction of her.
Sure. Right. Thank you so much, Sandeep, and good afternoon and good morning and good evening to people from wherever you have logged in. Thank you for joining in. I will just give a brief background of what I do, and then maybe we can launch into things. Essentially, because what I'm going to be talking about will make more sense once you know my background. Yeah. Right. So I'm Gauri, and I am by profession, I'm a mental health practitioner. I am a consumer behavior expert, working in the consumer behavior space for almost more than 25 years now, mental health space for more than now 13, 14 years. I am also a trainer. I work extensively doing consultancy projects for Mariwala Health Initiative. I also work with people with disabilities. So I actually do a whole lot of things, but I would say that the common thread for all of this is psychology, if I may use that word, or mental emotional well-being. That is the common thread probably. Having said this, now I want to launch into the fact that what am I doing here? Okay, some of you might have been part of TRIZtalks in the past, and largely the kind of talks that you would have had would have been around how TRIZ works, how it has helped various businesses, processes, product innovations, all of that. And I think that's a fair amount of, there's a fair amount of understanding about what TRIZ does. Okay, so my first brush, I think, with TRIZ was more than 15 years ago. Yeah, and that's when I started to understand this world of TRIZ, and it was very fascinating, let me tell you, because it's a very methodical, very cognitive approach to problem solving, critical thinking, and all of that, and that really was fascinating for me. Back then, I wasn't. So I was more into consumer behavior, and it really made me think about new innovative ways of working around consumer problems and stuff like that. And then once I made my foray into the field of psychology, yes, thank you so much. Yes, please. And you could mute everybody too. Yeah. So like I said, as I moved into the space of psychology, what really happened is it sort of expanded and exploded my understanding of TRIZ, because when you are talking about TRIZ, you are talking a lot about thinking. Yeah, you are talking a lot about cognition. Yeah? Cognition meaning thinking. You are talking a lot about the method of thinking, the ways of thinking, so that whatever finally you come to a sort of a solution which is more effective, more efficient, which is more how do I say it? Cost saving, energy saving, effort saving, all of that, right? And at the same time, very, very innovative. So while we are talking about a very cognitive way of looking at problems or thinking, what really struck me was the fact that, well, this is great, because this sort of is like, it's mind-boggling. But ultimately, when you're talking about training people in TRIZ practices, one aspect we cannot forget, obviously, is the fact that we are training people. Okay, so the people factor is something that we cannot ever forget, and that's when my I think my mental wheel started churning, and I started thinking that then how do we integrate the two? Okay, so that is what I am going to be talking about right now. Yeah,
Gauri, I'm sorry, but your screen is not visible.
I have not yet. I have stopped sharing.
Okay. Okay. And once you share it, no, just pin it from the top right corner.
Acha, I will do that. I'll do that. I thought I'll just first give a little background and get into the presentation. Otherwise, it will be a
No
little
problem.
out of context. Yeah. Thank you, Sandeep,
Okay.
for telling me of that. Yeah. So now, yes, now I will actually show my screen so that I can take you through a little bit of what I mean when I say that you cannot ignore people, right? And how does it sort of integrate with the TRIZ practice? Uh, Before I do that, what I would request is let me finish the entire communication conversation, and then if you could come up and ask questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. The simple reason being because there are many things which will sort of be plugged in while I'm talking about the strengths-based practice and risk. So there would be stuff that I will anyway cover later. So just hold on to your questions, keep them. I will definitely address them at the end. Yeah, I hope that works with all. I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah. Okay. And please, I'm a little tech challenged when it comes to WebEx. Okay, so please bear with me.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, now I'm trying to. Okay, share. Hmm. Is this visible?
Yeah, visible. Right.
Okay. I don't know how to pin it, but I'm just keeping it like this. I'm not doing anything to it. Okay. So, all right. So,
Right.
I'm just keeping the screen like this. I don't know how to pin it and all. So let it just be like this. I'll go ahead and use the, yeah. Okay. All right. So, I think I'll begin right at the beginning like this. Okay. Let's talk about emotional well-being and soft skills training. Now, when we are talking about TRIZ and putting the TRIZ training into practice, so we are really talking about a stage where we have sort of given the right kind of inputs, right kind of training to the members of a particular team, for example, to resolve their particular specific problem in their business, and at that stage, what we are really expecting is obviously that TRIZ practices are going to give us good results, good output, which is going to sort of even save a lot of our resources, lot of our cost, and also time resource, right? So that is what we are expecting out of it. But one aspect that we need to remember is while we have done the training with people, there is a element of the subjective individual personality that comes into play, yeah, or the mental makeup of the person who has been trained in TRIZ, that also comes into play, because a person A being trained in TRIZ versus and person B having been trained in TRIZ, both of them may have the same knowledge, may have the same training, but they may not be able to implement that training into the same degree because of their individual characteristics or their individual personalities or even mental makeup. And I think I don't need to really tell this, but all of us are working in workplaces where interpersonal dynamics do play a big role. Yeah, so the TRIZ training can only be sharpened and can only be made more effective if we are able to really work with the human resources that we have who have been trained in TRIZ. Yeah, and how does one do that then? And again, when I'm saying the how, there are the three angles there. I mean, one, of course, that can be done only and only first and foremost, and I always begin with that, by knowing one's own self. Unless and until you know your own self well, how much ever training you get of whatever kind, you will be unable to sort of execute it in the best possible way or the optimal way. Yeah. So knowing oneself becomes extremely critical. Yeah. But now at the same time, we are not all working in silos. We are working in teams. Very few people are, individual contributors. So understanding others also then become a critical aspect when we are putting things into practice, trainings into practice. And the third, of course, is understanding situations. So while the training is given, again, the training cannot ever be used just, without a context. There needs to be a context in which the training can be implemented, and we all know that. So if there is some kind of product innovation we are talking about, that product innovation is sort of needed, or the need is expressed because certain other things have happened. Like, for example, there are certain need gaps that have been identified in the market, or in when you speak with customers, when you speak with consumers, and those need gaps, if they have to be addressed, then probably a product needs to be developed. Now, if that product needs to be developed, and we are using the TRIZ practice to come up with the best product in the most innovative way to address those need gaps, that's only and only possible when we understand the macro system, the ecosystem, the macro system, the context. So understanding the situation becomes also very critical. So when this becomes the framework within which we are going to be implementing the training, then what is critical is then how the next question, obviously, it's the next logical question is how to learn to work with self. So how do we know more about ourselves, right? So that becomes critical. How do we know about others? That becomes critical. How do we perceive the situation or the circumstance or the context? That also becomes critical. And in that context, therefore, the learning to know oneself, know others, and the circumstances can be done through various soft skills trainings. And when I'm saying soft skill trainings, of course, there are millions and millions and hundreds of soft skill trainings out there. And all of them, I'm sure, are effective in different ways. I am going to be talking about one specific one, which is very nascent. Quite nascent, but quite recent also. I will be talking about it in just a bit. But the fact remains that this kind of training becomes critical. Yeah, it sort of completes the jigsaw. All right. Now let me move to something which many of you would have seen in many different presentations or trainings, but I will want to talk about it right now because this is a critical framework. Okay, and this is something that we call the cognitive triangle. Like I said before, cognition is about thoughts. So what is this cognitive triangle really, right? And all of us are aware that while we are doing anything on a day-to-day basis, moment to moment, there are multiple thoughts going on in our head. Many of them are parallel, many of them are intermingled. We never really have like one single focused thought, and that's that. There are so many parallel thoughts running. In fact, in psychology terms, we call them parallel conversations in our head. So thoughts are going on, right? Now, these thoughts then result in certain behaviors, because you like, for example, the thought is about you have identified a gap in the market, saying that okay, there is this well, let's talk about the automobile industry. Okay, there is this need for cars which sort of straddles both the worlds. People are getting very family oriented these days, especially after COVID. And also people are struggling to use cars, but also struggling to get parking spaces or maneuver cars on roads in India. So the need gap that is coming up is that how do we come up with a design for a car which straddles both these needs, where it can be a family car plus also a compact car in which you are able to take it anywhere you want, park it as well neatly, where in small spaces also. If suppose that is the need gap. So if these are the thoughts that are arising, obviously it's going to lead to some behaviors, some actions, some thought processes, and leading to behaviors at the organizational end. हम लोग को कुछ करना चाहिए इसके बारे में, and all of that. Let's start brainstorming XYZ. Yeah. Now this is at the organizational level, but when we are talking about the personal level, okay, we have so many thoughts, no? Ki, things like at the workplace, for example. If you are constantly being pulled up for your presentation skills, for example, if that is how it is, then immediately the thoughts are going to lead to certain emotions that you're going to probably feel angry, maybe resentment, maybe underconfident, maybe even envious of certain other people. So those kind of various emotions are going to be coming up within you, and then each of those emotions are going to lead to certain behaviors. So this loop always is existing in all of us, the thoughts, the emotions, and to the behaviors. And when we are talking about addressing people and people's needs, so to speak, all these three aspects need to be taken into consideration. And when we are talking about this loop of thoughts and emotions and behaviors, then we are talking really about certain patterns and habits that become a part of us over a period of time. We all know that all of us don't behave in the same way when we are faced with the same situation. I mean, if I take the same example of presentation skills, if one person is being criticized for his presentation skills, he might feel resentment, and then might feel underconfident, and therefore that might lead to whatever dip in that person's overall performance. But at the same time, there might be another person, okay, who is I may just take it up as a challenge and say, oh my God, this is what is happening. I need to really, tweak or improve my presentation skills. So let me dive into a more, I mean, maybe I should go and do some course to learn how to present well. And he takes that direction. So, and another person might do something else altogether. So thoughts, so the input or the stimulus might be the same, but that is going to lead to very different thoughts in different people. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, again, all people in a team are different. Everybody will have different personalities, thought processes, emotional responses, and behavioral patterns. And if there is so much of variability within individuals, then if a training is given to all of them, same training is given to all of them, the way they are going to respond to the training and the way they are going to actually work with each other is going to going to depend on those variable factors. So then what is the thing that then we want? Actually, we want the training to be a success. We want it to come out, I mean, finally, ultimately result in output that we are seeking, or what we have actually done the training for. Then what do we do then? So if we want to put the training, so then what, therefore, what we need to therefore do is then we need to understand people well. And it also means that we'll have to then understand people as resources, human resources, and ultimately it is about managing these resources. So managing own self, of course, the first thing, managing people, and in terms of interpersonal and team, and of course then the time. Yeah. All right. So let's. Okay. So how each of these resource gets managed will finally depend on how we will manage that entire thought, emotion, behavior matrix. That means there needs to be enough individual training in managing this TEB matrix that will be critical, so that ultimately whatever training we give can be optimally executed. So then it becomes like the entire holistic way of training an individual. So now let me come to how one can do it. How can we understand our own self, understand team members, right? And that means others. And here I would like to touch upon something called some trainings on self-management, and there are many of them. I'm going to touch upon only one. These are certain self-management trainings that we do. Okay, I mean the mindfulness-based strengths work is something I'm going to be talking about today. Then there are other things about self-care. How do we work with adaptability, adapting to situations? How can we increase our emotional quotients? All of that is some other trainings. Like, I mean, I was thinking about, the banking industry for example, and I was talking to somebody the other day that when we're talking about the banking industry, while there are some processes which could be put into practice, some good products that can come into play with the TRIZ training, banking as an industry is so people-centric. So unless and until we factor in the human angle, that training is incomplete. And that's where it becomes critical to understand people. Yeah, so that's a very industry-specific example that I wanted to share. So there are many trainings on self-management. One of this is this. Of course, then there are others in terms of communication skills, team management, but using character strengths, interpersonal relationships using character strengths. I'll come to what character strengths are in just a bit. Again, time management using character strengths. Also this training where you can actually get time on your side, making time your ally, right? So now I'm going to sort of dive into what I mean by strengths-based practice. And for this, I think I want to, I'll stop share here because I want to tell you all a little story. I don't know, or a history. I won't say story, history. And this is about history of psychology, really. And psychology itself is quite nascent in that sense. I mean, a couple of hundreds of years, or maybe more focus has been put into psychology in the last probably century. But towards the end of the of 1900s, like in 1998, 99, I think, people started thinking that when we are talking about psychology, I mean, in fact, even if I ask you, when we say psychology, what is the first thought that comes to your mind? And I think the first thing people will say is this only, something not okay. I mean, typically words that come to mind are mad and crazy and mental illness and stuff like that. In short, things which are not so pretty, not so nice. A group of American psychologists and psychiatrists, actually more psychiatrists, more psychologists and psychiatrists, started thinking on the lines that while that is true, are we looking at psychology in a very narrow fashion? Why are we only looking at things which are negative in psychology? Because if you're talking about psychology, it's a study of the mind, and mind way, both the things are there, the good things as well as the not so nice things, not so good things. So why don't we look at what works also, and then work on that so that we can help people lead a life which is more fulfilling, more satisfying, a richer life, right? So that was the thought process, and a very beautiful example was given, and almost like a metaphor or an analogy, really, that when we are looking at tending to a garden, okay, we have a little nice patch and we are trying to make a garden out of it, and we do so many things in the garden. It is not enough. It is not enough to only weed the garden. No, it's not enough to just remove weeds out of the garden to make that garden nice and flourishing. What's important is to give that garden enough, or the plants in the garden, enough sunlight, enough manure, enough water, nice good care. So a psychologist started saying that it is not enough to say that, okay, anxiety is gone, therefore the person is flourishing. We all know that if anxiety is not there, depression is not there, that does not necessarily mean that we are the happiest souls on this earth. So that was really the birth of positive psychology. And what positive psychology talks about is actually bringing a person, so from not just minus 5 to 0, that is the absence of negatives, but actually moving the person from 0 to +5. So positive psychology talks a lot about flourishing. Positive psychology talks a lot about taking the good parts of you and enhancing it so that you live a life which is fulfilling, flourished, satisfying, contented life. And I think it's I mean, no rocket science. When we are in that state, we are able to perform much better. And this is not me who's saying it. There have been now, for the last almost 20-25 years, plenty of research studies which have been done to show that interventions of positive psychology has helped in performance enhancement in every possible sphere, right from workspaces to education to family spaces, interpersonal relationships. Every single space has benefited from working with positive psychology interventions. So what are these positive psychology interventions? And I'm going to just focus on one of them. there is, I mean, it's, of course, it's a wide field, but for our purposes, I'm going to start talking about something that is one of the fundamental pillars of positive psychology, and that is character strengths. Okay. So this I have spoken about what positive psychology is. So the Dr. Peterson, he's also a psychologist, American. He speaks about this. It is building the good life instead of repairing the bad. It is about taking the lives of average people up to great instead of focusing solely on moving those who are struggling up to normal. Yeah. So how do they do that? And they do it uh, by using this framework of character strengths. Now, what are character strengths? Okay. So I will talk about what character strengths are, but basically character strengths are our core certain strengths that we all inherently have. Okay. And these strengths, when we start working upon them, so that we can keep sharpening and enhancing each of these strengths, we are able to reach greater level of satisfaction in whatever we do. All right. So character strengths, when you actually mindfully use them, we can end up having meaningful relationships. And I'm not talking about just personal relationships. I'm talking about relationships at work, relationships with the organization, relationship with the society, and relationship with your own self. Yeah, you tend to feel more energized. You can navigate life and work better. And overall, there's a great sense of well-being. And this has actually proven to be a boon almost in workspaces. Yeah. So what are character strengths? Let me just tell you. So those character strengths are, and this is in the most layman terms, they are positive parts of our personality that impact how you feel, how you think, and how you behave. You remember the cognitive triangle? Yeah. So character strengths actually impact how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. Uh, uh, scientists have worked, I think, how many, more than 100 scientists actually worked on this across the globe, across professions, across ethnicities, across ages. They actually went to a lot of people. It was a long longitudinal almost study where and after doing that study, they came up with 24 character strengths. Okay, some of you might be familiar with the Clifton scale, but that's very different. That's about talents, and it's about using those talents in workspaces and stuff like that. This is a more fundamental aspect about your own self. Character strengths are very fundamental to you, very core to you. They are not necessarily just talents. Of course, talents would be a part of it. Talents are a manifestation of the character strengths that you have. All right. So they identified 24 character strengths, and they are present in each and every individual here on planet Earth. Okay. The only thing is they are present in various degrees. So what that means is these 24 character strengths, because they are present in various different degrees, they will give rise to a particular character strength profile for each of the individuals. So, I mean, there is this particular test, psychometric test that is there. It's a survey almost. It's the most widely used survey in the world today. If you use that, you will be able to generate a profile for yourself. Okay, if you're interested, let me know. I can paste the link in the chat window after this. You may want to take that test for your own self. It's a battery of questions. I would have loved to ask you to do it here itself, but it will take some time. So, and we've already wasted some time in this tech problem. But I can share the link. So when you do that test, you will come up with a profile for your own self. So all the 24 strengths in a profile. So you will find that there are the 24 strengths are arranged in a rank order in that profile, and every person will have a different profile, right? Now, what is and the study of character strengths, of course, is vast. What is important for us here is to really understand and use our signature character strengths. And what are our signature character strengths? Signature character strengths are our top 5 or top 7 character strengths. So you will find, if you do ever take that test, you will find that there'll be like 24 strengths in a rank order. The top 5 or 7 are the strengths which are your own core strengths. Matlab, if you look at those strengths, you'll realize that, hey, this is something that these strengths is something that these are strengths that I will never ever imagine myself not having. Like for example, out of all the 24 strengths, for me, the one of the top 5 strengths was appreciation of beauty, right? That was one of the strengths, character strengths. That was my signature strength. And I said to myself, oh my God, if that is not there for me, I cannot imagine Gauri to be without appreciation of beauty. Or I think there was gratitude. I cannot imagine my life without gratitude. There was bravery. I cannot imagine my life without bravery. So top 5 strengths are our signature strengths. Now, what do we mean by signature strengths? These are strengths which are so core to us that we don't really have to, they come very naturally to us. Whatever situation we come across, we tend to use those top 5 or 7 strengths. The rest of the strengths are used to a lesser degree because they don't come naturally to us. They're present in us, but they don't come naturally to us. So what character strengths work does is teach people to use all the 24 strengths in various situations. The reason being that we cannot use, like for example, my top one of the signature strengths is, like I said, bravery. Now, what that means that it comes very naturally to me. Now, where bravery is not needed, I will still use bravery. And that might actually lead me to get into situations which are completely unsafe. So the overuse of some of our signature strengths can actually lead us into trouble. And that's exactly why we need to know how to use all the 24 strengths. Okay. So, and that's like briefly put. Okay. There have been many studies, the last line here, there have been many studies that when workers at workplaces, when they use their signature strengths, that is the top 5 strengths at work, they have more positive work experiences, their work performances increase, their interpersonal dynamic within the teams, the team dynamics work better, people are able to synchronize better, harmoniously work with each other, which is so critical finally when we are going for a project, because a project is a teamwork, right? And if you're unable to, if there is going to be this conflict, struggle, some animosity, those kind of things, those quite thorny and stormy group dynamics, then we all know what happens to the project at the end. Okay, so studies have shown that signature strengths work really brings a lot of positive experiences. So this is just what the 24 character strengths are. The strengths, and I mean, I'll be happy to share more if you want to know later. But these are the strengths. So creativity, curiosity, judgment, perspective, bravery, all of this. These are actually 24 strengths which have been divided as per 6 values, values of humanity, values of transcendence. And that's the technical aspect of it. I will not get into that. But these are the 24 strengths. All of us have this. Every single person here has this. Now, the beautiful part is, if I have taken my test and I know my profile, and my teammate also has taken it and I know that person's profile, if I look at the top 5 strengths of my team member and I match those with mine, I will also come to know, hey, why is that person behaving in certain way in a certain situation? Then the understanding gets better, the acceptance gets better, and then the kind of interaction then between team members becomes more constructive than no, I wouldn't say destructive, but more conflict ridden, or more irritation and frustration ridden. Yeah, so these are the 424 character strengths, which you will find on the site, which I will maybe, if you want, I can share it later. There's another framework that also gets used in positive psychology. It is called the PERMA theory of well-being. And because our attempt is for well-being, so that ultimately it benefits all of us, even at the workplace, uh, this is something that Dr. Seligman is the father of positive psychology. He talks about it. It's called PERMA. It's an acronym. PERMA stands for P for positive emotions, E for engagement, R for positive relationships, M for meaning, and A for accomplishments. So what he says is when we focus on each of this, how to enhance positive emotions, how to ensure that we are engaged and involved in our work. So there are methods to do that as well. You would have, many people say, "Yeah, I'm in the zone," or I'm in the flow. Now this I'm in the zone and I'm in the flow. Many of us, for us, it's very organic, very random. We don't really give a thought to it. But when we actually develop it very, very intentionally to do whatever we do so that we reach that stage or state of flow, we are able to perform so much better. So, that is another. So that is something that we need to work on for better performance. Positive relationships also help in for better performance. Meaning to whatever you're doing. There has to be a purpose. So working on the purpose is another way of you know. Towards psychological well-being, and accomplishment is achievement. So working towards achievements, many times we look at achievements only those grand achievements. So you have reached that target which has been given to you, and that is an achievement. Or what your market share is increased from whatever 25% to 60%, and that's an achievement. So those kind of things are big achievements. But when we are looking at smaller accomplishments and smaller achievements, those are also achievements, and they are going to create the same kind of emotional response in us, and which will ultimately make us better in terms of our emotional health. Yeah. So trying to strengthen all these PERMA parameters also helps in workplace well-being. Yeah, and when we're saying workplace well-being, then we are ultimately also talking about how we are going to be with our customers and clients and consumers as well, right? It's all interlinked. It's not individual a silo working. Not everybody. There's so much of interconnectedness. So yes. So the 5 building blocks is what that's another framework. So when we are talking about a strengths-based practice, we then look at the character strengths profile of people. How can we? So this is what we do actually. How do we make individuals aware of their character strengths? How do we use the PERMA model so that strengthening happens, and then which will ultimately lead to improved workplace performance, and consequently lead to improved mental well-being. So when you're talking about TRIZ training, when all of these factors are put into place, your training becomes so much more effective. It is like, it's you've got a great car, everything is perfect, but if the battery is down, the car is not going to move. If the fuel tank is going to be empty, the car is not going to move. So you can consider this or understanding as something like which is going to sort of give an impetus to the training, which is already, phenomenal. Yeah. That's the that was something that I wanted to briefly, I don't know whether it was brief, but yeah, I wanted to talk about. So with this, I think I will not go much into details. I'm open to answering questions, and yeah, if there is anything that you want to know, please type. You could unmute and speak as well.
Yeah, each one of you can unmute yourself and ask a direct question, or else you can just type it. I'll ask it, or she can also read, no problem.
Yeah.
So it was really a very nice presentation, and Gauri, I would say that while you were explaining the signature strength, the people with their individual strength, their faces were coming in front of me, like how someone behaves in a particular manner. So it is really very interesting and very easily relatable. Of course, there must be much more depth while we will be learning it in deep. But quickly I could relate, and was very
Yes, of
eye-opening
course.
for me. Like if someone behaves in this manner, why he or she behaves in this manner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions, participants? Okay. While we look at it, as you have very nicely related it with the learning ability of any individual. So,
Absolutely.
how would we, like, you must be having some numbers, like how much we can improve learnability of an individual, because it has got so many different parameters. So I'm still wondering how to measure it and what would be like enhancement in an individual over a period of time. I can see, prima facie, I can see that there is many things which we can develop within us. Just a question.
So just to say that when we are talking about measurability here, no, and very rightly said, this is so when things come to, for example, the mind, measurability becomes a little abstract in that sense, and it many times it is about more about self-evaluation. So we call it, self-disclosure or self-evaluation, more to speak. So at one level, at the self level, you yourself realize that, okay, I was reacting or doing certain things in an X way. Now, 9 times out of 10, I am not doing it. Earlier, I was doing it,
Right,
10 times out of 10, a particular reaction. But after going through this training, after practicing it, because after all, it's a practice. Let's not forget that it's a practice. And when you get yourself habituated to it, then maybe now I don't slip as much. It's maybe, I can sort of regulate myself to a degree where out of 10 situations, 8 situations I'm able to regulate myself. So it's more your own thing. Okay, that's one. The other is, I think it's very subjective, okay, to maybe organizations. If you say every organization has some matrix in terms of performances. So so when this kind of training happens with those, so before the training, if you have the matrix, and then after that, if you do your matrix, what it could be, whatever it could be in terms of the number of days in which a particular task can be completed, or
right.
yeah. So I mean, this I think is very organization based, in the sense different
Specific.
organizations have different metrics. So if you do the pre and post, then you will be able to see how the entire team has responded. Then it becomes very evident. But to your own self, to the person, you will find it. You will also see it in the, when in the interpersonal dynamics. You will also see that, like for example, for certain, um, let's look at errors. Okay, errors
Right.
in certain processes. If you find
Maybe
that
due to lack of concentration.
there could be lack of concentration, or it could just be a lack of alignment between team members.
Right. Yes.
Miscommunication between team members. Something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do 10 different trainings on how to manage time, and how you should put down stuff, and how you should write an email, and how things should be put into the relevant document so that it is updated. You do any number of those trainings, but if individually the persons are not inherently like that, like very disciplined or very regulated, then
Right.
it doesn't work very, very well. And then this training helps to enhance those not the strengths which are not high up in the profile. So when you, so
Right.
for
And
example,
it was very,
sorry,
sorry,
was that again?
sorry. It
Yeah,
was
go ahead.
very well explained by your analogy of the garden. Like while we weed out the things, that is not enough, right?
That is not enough.
It's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so when answering your question about how do I measure, measuring is subjective when it comes to your own self. And at an organization level, you have your metrics, and all the metrics will be able to, do a pre and post and see how it works. Yeah.
All right.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Similarly to TRIZ does not matter to what kind of things you are putting it to. Wherever you will be putting it, you will be getting the results out of that.
Absolutely.
It's more about innovating at an abstract level, not at the very specific level.
Yeah.
And that is how very, very relatable what you spoke today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, participant? Not like. I'm sure Gauri would be available for your answers. You can just post it on info@trizasia.com and we'll pass it on to Gauri. And on her behalf, I guarantee that you will get apt answers to your queries.
Yes, I'll be happy to, because I think I just put everything in like a small nutshell. There is so much more.
Of course.
But yeah.
Yeah. And you covered a lot within the given time.
Oh, so thank you.
Ignited the interest in this. Definitely we'll have more sessions. And
Thank you.
with this, it is I would like to say that thank you on behalf of TRIZ Asia, TRIZ Association of Asia, and AISSMS College of Engineering, and all the participants who are present today, and those who will be looking it in the YouTube channel at a later stage. And dear participants, again, this is the 23rd chapter which we had, and 24th chapter would be coming on the 31st of May. And stay tuned to know, and we'll also keep you informed who would be our next speaker. So with this, thank you, Gauri, for your time and all the insightful things which you have shared with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your patient hearing, and thank you for giving this platform. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So with this, I declare that today's TRIZ Talks is over.
Yeah.
Thanks once again, and have a great day.
Thank you. Can I leave the meeting, Sandeep?
Yeah, Gauri. I'll stop recording and.
Yes. Thank you.